distinguished mayors, city government delegates, and online viewers from around the world. Thank you for joining the 2020 Smart City Mayor Summit online. This year, the Mayor Summit is taking place virtually and turning into an excellent opportunity for international exchange and collaboration. Taipei City Mayor Wen Zeke, Deputy Mayor Shan-shan Huang, and delegates from cities worldwide will engage in talks with one another regarding smart governance that utilizes technologies to bring cities back to normalcy amid the COVID-19 pandemic. First, let me introduce the city mayors and delegates joining us today. Please welcome Taipei City Mayor Wen Zeke.
Hi, everyone.
Next, let us welcome Taipei City Deputy Mayor Shan-shan Huang.
Hi, good afternoon.
We would also like to welcome Zdenek Hrzib, Mayor of Prague, Czech Republic. Next, let us welcome Bongani Baloyi, Mayor of Midval, South Africa. Next, please welcome Tunç Sawyer, Mayor of the Izmir Metropolitan Municipality. Next, we would like to welcome Christophe Farahi, President of Grenoble Alpes Metropole, France. Let us also welcome Bartosz Bartoszewicz, Deputy Mayor of Gdynia, Poland. Next, we would also like to welcome Garbel Kerpel-Fronius, Deputy Mayor of Budapest, Hungary. Next, let us welcome Alexei Parabuchev, CEO of Moscow Innovation Agency, Russia. First, let me invite Taipei City Mayor Wen Zeke to deliver his welcoming remarks.
City leaders, ladies and gentlemen, I am Wen Zeke, the Mayor of Taipei City. The Smart City Summit and Expo, which was originally scheduled for March, was postponed due to COVID-19. Our decision was based on the threat of contagion from face-to-face interaction. Fortunately, thanks to advances in technology, we are able to conduct the event today using online streaming and the video conference tool. To my knowledge, COVID-19 has infected over 20 million people worldwide and resulted in the deaths of 440,000 individuals as of August 11, 2020. Taiwan has reported 480 confirmed cases. Recent statistics have indicated that the United States has faced the most severe outcomes from the pandemic. In other countries, there are a lot of cases as well. The continuous spread of the viruses across the globe has caused numerous changes to people's daily lives, as well as to industry and economies. I wish to express my thanks to everyone for taking time off from their busy schedules to be here today, especially considering the time demands that city representatives globally are facing in dealing with the pandemic. Through this online event, we hope to address how different countries are dealing with COVID-19 and how municipalities are examining topics such as pandemic prevention measures, technology-assisted solutions, and the outlooks on economic recovery and industrial transition in the post-pandemic world. So far, Taipei City Government has been effective in preventing the spread of COVID-19 within the city. This achievement can be attributed to the lessons learned from the SARS crisis in 2003. We are grateful to the citizens for supporting and complying with the related regulations and policies. Their compliance, combined with the advanced deployment measures employed across multiple fields, enable effective response. Through approaches such as public-private partnership and technology-assisted pandemic prevention, we were able to minimize the effect of COVID-19. The world around us has been drastically changed by COVID-19, from daily lifestyles to industrial norms. Whether it is the economy or the way we live, there is no turning back. Therefore, we must adopt strategies that integrate pandemic prevention, relief, and transition. We must assist companies and the members of the public in readjusting their mindsets, implementing the necessary transitions, and devising new socio-economic models adapted to the new norm. The 2020 Smart City Summit and Expo online hopes to strengthen the connection between Taiwan and the world around the innovative transitions. The online event series, which kicked off in June, featured numerous virtual and real-world integrated activities to promote and extend the reach of this year's Expo, as well as setting the foundation for the upcoming 2021 Smart City Summit and Expo. Despite the unpredictabilities of the pandemic, the interaction and exchanges between Taipei and the global community will not be interrupted. On the contrary, we hope to use this opportunity to further strengthen collaborative efforts by sharing experience in multiple smart city fields. We are confident that we can overcome future challenges together. Before concluding my opening remark, I heard the good news that my good friend, Mayor Huang Shan-shan of Prague, will visit Taiwan at the end of this month. It reminds me of my beautiful memory from my last visit to Prague in January this year. I would like to take this opportunity to extend my invitation to Mayor Huang Shan-shan to visit Taipei. I am sure that I would be a very good host. Once again, I thank all of you for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Ke, for joining us today. We will now take a virtual group photo of all the meeting delegates to capture this special moment on camera. City mayors and delegates, please look into your camera. We are about to take a screenshot. Ready, set, smile. Next, please put your thumb up. Put your right thumb up as we take another screenshot. Ready, set, raise your thumb, say cheese. Next, please put up both thumbs, left and right, as we take one last picture. Ready, set, raise your thumbs, say cheese. Thank you for joining the group photo shooting. And to kickstart the Mayor Summit, Taipei City Mayor Huang Shan-shan will now make a presentation on the pandemic prevention plan of Taipei City.
Hi, everyone. I'm Huang Shan-shan, the Mayor of Taipei City. It's my great honor to be here today to present an overview of the latest development regarding Taipei Smart City Initiative. In light of the COVID-19 crisis, we are able to integrate technology with our experience in pandemic prevention. We'd also like to share our strategy and the response to the post-pandemic world of tomorrow. Next. For the next part, we will cover two topics: technology-assisted pandemic prevention and a report on developments towards confronting a post-pandemic era. The first part is on how Taipei City was able to confront the pandemic through technology-assisted pandemic prevention efforts, as well as details on the pandemic prevention policy. These approaches help us to reduce the impact upon the overall operation of the Taipei City, and we would like to share this experience with you. Next. Taipei is the capital of Taiwan, covers an area about 270 square kilometers. The 4 million population consists of residents and the labor force. commuting from nearby cities. Urbanization has brought many problems to this city, but Taipei's convenient mass transportation system, high-quality talents, strong ICT industry, and the various infrastructure have provided rich nutrients for the further development of the smart city. Next. After experience the SARS pandemic of 2003, the city government invested much effort overhauling its medical care system. The national effort either did over 20,000 clinics and hospitals across Taiwan, with citizens being aware of the danger of the pandemic and the importance of face masks. This experience makes it easy to build awareness of the preventing pandemic of COVID-19. This allowed Taiwan to move swiftly ahead with the pandemic prevention preparedness, employing existing resources to effectively protect its people from the impact of COVID-19 of this year. Next. Firstly, Taiwan's first line of defense will be introduced. All arrivals must declare their health situation on arrival. Those with symptoms are tested. The data of those with symptoms will be imported to the smart quarantine multifunction system, and the health units will carry out 14 days of care and record each person's health situation and hospital visits. Those who test negative will be checked for 14 days after arrival. As of July 31st, 2020, Taipei City has checked 18,000 people, test 1,400 with 75 people testing positive, a positive of 5.22%. Contact of confirmed cases are at a higher risk group and must undergo 14 days home isolation. Arrivals are second high risk group and must undergo 14 days home quarantine. They are checked through the contact tracing system and the epidemic prevention tracking system. During the home isolation period, health unit staff will contact each person at least twice a day to inquire about health. Those under home quarantine will be contacted by civil administration unit staff at least once a day. It will be arranged for those with suspect COVID-19 symptoms to be taken to hospital for test. Those testing negative will be traced until 14 days after arrival or 14 days after contact with a confirmed case. Through implementing management of arrival and contacts, as of July 31st, 2020, of the 121 confirmed cases in Taipei City, only 8 were local. The rest were imported, and no large-scale community outbreaks has occurred. The electronic fence system uses mobile home positioning to ensure that a person under the home isolation or quarantine stay in the designated scope to reduce the risk of community infection. According to the data of contact tracing system and the epidemic prevention tracking system, the mobile home of a person under home isolation and quarantine is positioned when a person under home isolation or quarantine leaves the quarantine scope or turn off their home. The system will send a warning message to the person. The manager and the police ask the person to quickly return to the quarantine location. The manager and the police will also visit the location and pass evidence of rule isolation violation to the Department of Health, so a fine can be issued. After a person arrives at hospital, by inserting a national health insurance card, National Health Insurance Medical Record Cloud System will remind staff if the patient is subject to home quarantine or isolation, in a high-risk occupation, or has travel or contact history to allow risk of infection to be assessed. In the area of actual application, access control will be implemented at the hospital entrance and the entry only after card is entered and TOCC confirmed to avoid high-risk person causing infection in hospital. In light of the pandemic subsiding, Taipei City has begun the process of reopening public venues. However, it still manages the facilities by subsidizing them to Type A public area operated by public agency, and B, entertainment industry. Visit accessing public venues will need to bring ID card for on-site checks. For this, we developed an integrated APP to implement the real name registration system. Currently, all reopened venue adopt this system to ensure the protection of personal information by gathering them on secure cloud-based data bank. If there is a need for checking due to COVID-19 concerns, the information can be accessed in compliance with the privacy protection laws. The data will be removed after reaching the expiration date. A distribution chart of the user accessing city-affiliated public venues and facilities. The data is integrated into the Big Data Center for efficient management. If we receive report on confirmed COVID-19 cases visiting any of these venues, we can trace quickly and effectively with the help of these information. In response to the need for remote working during the pandemic period, Taipei City Government introduced the cloud-based video conference system. The system available to city agencies is easy to learn and easy to use, fulfilling the needs of departments in conducting internal meetings, cross-department meetings, and even cross-municipality meetings. In the area of education, Taipei City offered Taipei Cook Cloud to meet the demand of distance learning. Taipei Cook Cloud received honors in the education category of both 2019 and the 2020 IDC Scalper Award. Taipei Cook Cloud boasts a rich pool of education resources as well as online learning resources such as book reading and the programming education area for students and faculty access. In response to the pandemic, Taipei Cook Cloud see a growth of 5.3 million visits in the month of March alone. With the trend subsiding in April, the website still saw 2.5 million in April, reporting an average monthly growth of 500,000 users, which is a growth of 3 to 4 times compared to the figures before COVID-19. In June, the number of access exceeded 30 million. During the pandemic period, Taipei City Government still remains an open and innovative attitude. It continued to introduce innovative service via public-private partnership. The real-time registration face mask vending machine is an example of this. In response to COVID-19, Taiwan implemented the real name registration system to manage sales and inventory control of face masks in February. To alleviate the pressure on pharmacists while allowing greater convenience for citizens to purchase the mask, Taipei City Government worked with the startups to roll out the real name registration face mask vending machine. The device integrates real name system verification with the diversified e-payment options, which lower the risk of contacting the virus from cash. All customers have to do is insert their national health insurance cards, and the machine will check his or her purchase status. They can retrieve their face mask from the machine after paying with the Easy Card, or other e-payment options. In the continuation of the past policy of school campus vending machine, using cashless exchange, the face mask vending machine with the real name registration mechanism has been implemented. Our next step will be to develop into the smart mobile module, which continue our effort to realize service combining cashless exchange, real name verification, and mobility. In the future, we will promote the concept of mobile module in Taipei City. With the help of mobile devices, city workers can conduct services such as supply deployment and management under real name registration system, social welfare related and long-term care related operation without being limited by their physical location. This will allow the government to replace the older passive service providing module with a proactive one. During the pandemic period, Taipei City Government holds regular meetings to discuss the latest development of COVID-19. However, it encounters problems such as segmented information prevent policymakers to have full grasp of the situation. To resolve the issue of fragmented data, we integrate COVID-19 related information with the latest pandemic status for Taipei City through a big data center. Through clear-cut visual presentation of related data, city officials are able to use them as reference to make decisions on resource allocation, risk assessment, and performance checking of pandemic prevention efforts. Though Taiwan has managed this pandemic successfully, we must also take into consideration other countries that are still battling against COVID-19. Therefore, Taipei City Government has actively participated in exchange forums to share our policy and experience. Furthermore, Taipei City Government has also sent each of its sister city a copy of our epidemic prevention SOP and offer further assistance to those that request it. Global collaboration is very important in this fight against COVID-19. As long as other countries are still suffering, Taipei will never be safe from the virus. We are determined to utilize innovative technologies to create new business models that can operate under digital transformation. We have also examined how to better protect people-centric industry and the methods to strengthen supply chain. Engage within other countries to learn about the experience of policies, to promote economic revitalization is not only beneficial for us, but is also a meaningful way to deepening our relation. As nations across the world enter the post-pandemic era, Taipei City continues to ponder upon what form the future economy will take, as well as devising corresponding strategy and response. To stimulate the economy, the Taipei City Government has formulated 5 short-term actions aimed to promote economic revitalization of the wholesale and retail industry, business district, night market, department store, and catering. The first is to guide the cooperation between business, e-commerce vendor, and the delivery platform. Second, we must assist with the digital transformation of industry and support business innovation. Third, the government shall help business pioneer overseas opportunities. Fourth, we must improve environment facilities and the basic infrastructure. And finally, we will increase business opportunities and hold promotional events. The epidemic is an opportunity for Taiwan industry to transform themselves. All industry will be replaced by new ones. To coexist with the epidemic, we must have new economic model and change the idea of return to the past. We must think of what the economy will look like in the future. The post-COVID-19 era is defined by a new form of isolation between people and the people, as well as between nation and the nation. This will be reflected on cooperation, individual and the consumption partner, and create change in industrial system by introducing unmanned, automated, and flexible production, long-distance learning, remote working, seamless health and environmental devices, and other individual consumption environment. We will accept the development of e-commerce, online and virtual economy will also gradually be initiated. As a local government, we must consider how to build a better future. There are three key items that we must consider. The first item is how to make this government smarter. The second item is the provision of new talents. How we can support the innovation and the transformation process by cultivating better talents. The third item is the completion of all things that must be done to the retail economy, and the zero-touch economy can move to the next stage. Next one. In the face of pandemic, Taipei City Government responded in the shortest amount of time. Through private-public partnership and the technology-assisted pandemic prevention effort, it was able to resolve the challenge and improve the overall effectiveness of city operation while maintaining continued service to residents despite keeping manpower investment low. It's able to quickly adjust and adapt to a lifestyle characterized by coexisting with COVID-19. Take advantage of this opportunity. The city government seeks to implement digital transformation by leading with the public sector. In addition to providing more service to residents, it also reaches out to industry and explore the possibility of future development, encouraging the private sector to embark on their own transformation as well. During the meantime, I was able to provide only a brief overview of our plan. I welcome you all to scan the QR code and visit the website of Taipei Pavilion and the Pandemic Prevention SOP page to look up the details. Thank you.
And thank you, Mayor Ke, for your presentation. In today's Mayor's Roundtable discussion, delegates from 6 cities across 3 continents will share their experiences in using technologies to mitigate the impact of the pandemic. The roundtable will be moderated by Shan-shan Huang, Deputy Mayor of Taipei City. I will now turn the program over to Deputy Mayor Huang.
Mayors and deputy mayors, honored guests, and ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Shan-shan Huang, and I'm the Deputy Mayor of Taipei City. First, on behalf of the city government, I would like to thank you all for joining us at the 2020 Smart City Mayors Summit. The development of smart cities has become a global trend for municipalities around the world, especially during this difficult time caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. All governments, including that of Taipei, are facing a challenge that tests our capability. With years of experience and efforts in building a hub city, public-private collaboration, and smart city innovation, Taipei City is keen to solve problems through technology. It is certainly our pleasure to share our story with the world. Therefore, at this Smart City Mayors Summit, we will address the following question. COVID-19 has profoundly affected people's daily lives, governmental operations, and the economics of the most cities. How can technology help cities recover? We have invited local leaders from many cities in different parts of the world to share their experience. In addition to Taipei City, many cities overseas are working on smart city development and application and can offer valuable experience in pandemic control measures. In the next part of this program, we would like to invite city leaders from the Czech Republic, South Africa, Turkey, France, Poland, Hungary, and Russia to share how they reduce the impact of the pandemic and help their cities' finance and energy sectors recover with smart technology. First, please let me introduce Mayor Zdeněk Hrčík from the city of Prague. He will share Prague's experience in the development of smart city and IoT applications, as well as success story from the fight against COVID-19. Please welcome Mayor Zdeněk Hrčík.
Hello, dear guests. Thank you very much for inviting me for this session. Well, we have seen an outburst of both academic and private initiatives trying to tackle the COVID-19 crisis and its imminent risks. Well, projects were ranging from security cameras, counting the number of people in buildings and monitoring if they are wearing face masks, over newly emerging teachers' platforms for exchanging the best practice while teaching remotely, to mobile applications recommending pedestrians which areas to avoid if they wanted to maintain the social distancing. And we have managed to set up a city crisis management group and worked very efficiently over the course of 2 months with my colleagues from the city government and departments, with local hygiene authority and representatives of emergency services. We had co-organized an online hackathon for university students who were asked to find solutions to fight the pandemic. Unihack.cz, an online platform for teachers, won the first prize. So the city of Prague then decided to implement one of the presented solutions. And in our own competition, that Prague Innovation Marathon, 2 of 3 winning teams reflected COVID-19 issues while addressing lonely seniors who get suddenly isolated at home. That was one of the problems we had to deal here in Prague. At the national level, there was an open call for COVID-19 related innovations and smart solutions, hackthecrisis.cz. The winning team proposed a solution to increase COVID-19 testing capacities. The second prize was awarded to newly developed lung ventilator Corovent, the development of which was sponsored in a public fundraising campaign. In another bottom-up initiative, COVID-19 CZ, associated with the Česko.digital, a new mobile application, e-rouška, means e-face mask, for Bluetooth-based tracing of potentially risky contacts was developed. The unique point of this solution is the fact that the data is analyzed on the device, and therefore the risk of any data abuse is close to zero. Because it's, after all, we are dealing with the private data here. Now, the Ministry of Health runs the project. Unfortunately, there are also less shiny stories, like the one of the national project Smart Quarantine. It turned out that the regional hygiene authorities are very far from ready to use the modern technologies and adapt to a new situation quickly enough. This is caused by the fact that we do not have or didn't have the experience, for example, with SARS or similar infection like you did in Taiwan. Thank you.
Okay. Our next speaker is Mayor Bagani Baloyi of Midwal, South Africa. Meanwhile, is one of the fastest growing cities in South Africa. The city government is adopting an innovative mindset to revolutionize the manner in which city services operate, as well as driving sustainability within the location ecosystem. Please join us in welcoming Mayor Bagani Baloyi.
Mayor Bagani Baloyi, we would like to ask you to please turn on your microphone. We're not getting an audio feed in Taiwan. We'd like to ask you to please turn on your microphone. Please go ahead.
No test.
We still cannot hear you. We would like to invite the next speaker to speak first as we work on the technical difficulties. So now I would like to turn the program back to Deputy Mayor Shan-shan Huang.
Okay. Next, it's our pleasure to welcome Mayor Tush Soyar of Izmir Metropolitan Municipalities, Turkey. Izmir is a pioneer of urban development in Turkey. The country's third largest city is rapidly growing and fully leverages IT technology to improve the livelihoods of its citizens. Let us welcome Mayor Tush Soyar.
It's a great pleasure for me to speak with you today. Thank you so much for providing this discussion platform where we can connect and learn from each other. May I ask for my slides? Is it possible to see them? Yes, thank you so much. Please, the second one. I want to mention a couple of words about my unique city. Izmir is a city with a history of 8,500 years. It's one of the largest port cities in the Mediterranean Sea. It has always been very connected to the rest of the world. Hundreds of years, the goods coming through the Silk Road have been sent to the Mediterranean and Europe. It is where Eastern and Western civilizations mingle. The next slide, please. Looking toward the past, we realized that what made Izmir so special is its connectivity with the other parts of the world. That is why we spend lots of time and energy to develop stronger relations with other cities and international institutions in the world. Izmir plays a leading role in UCLG, Urban 20, MedCities, and in many more international organizations. We recently joined UCLG's Committee on Local Economic and Social Development. I'm also the Vice President and member of the Executive Bureau in the Congress of Local and Regional Authorities of the Council of Europe. The next slide, please. Pandemic has negatively affected our health, along with the global economy and social life. Municipalities have demonstrated that their proximity to the citizens has contributed to solving major challenges. The outbreak was unprecedented, The circumstances were dynamic. The threats required resources beyond our capacity. That is why we decided to change the regular modality of carrying out municipal operations and services. We needed institutional innovation to adapt in the new circumstances, and Izmir switched into the crisis municipality. In the scope of the crisis municipalism, we first defined new processes for municipal operations and services. Second, we established new decision-making and executive and consultative bodies. Third, we strengthened solidarity in the city. Investment in strong and effective information processing infrastructure, fiber optic, wireless and switchboard infrastructure allowed telework of municipal personnel. We protected our personnel from the virus and continued to provide service to the city. During the crisis, we also provided medical and psychological counseling to our citizens via phone or video call. Citizens Communication Center provided the public with quick, easy access to all municipal services and information while maintaining the highest possible level of quality. During the pandemic, we moved hundreds of personnel to the communication centers in order to assure an effective interaction with citizens. The Citizen Communication Center gathered and analyzed a significant amount of data. This gives us the opportunity to make informed decisions according to our citizens' needs. The next slide. The Izmir is a virtual platform which allows citizens to participate and contribute to municipal policies and actions. We define the Izmir platform as the largest virtual square of the city. This platform supports the governance of people, by the people, for the people in Izmir. The Izmir digital platform significantly powered the initiatives and solidarity campaigns of the municipality. We have got effective results in meeting people's needs and demands. The platform also allowed us to prioritize the needs of the vulnerable groups which suffer most from the crisis. The next slide. The municipality supported the agricultural producers thanks to the Izmir digital platform. The agricultural production value of Izmir is roughly $4 to $5 billion per year. We had to support producers and their cooperatives against the negative impacts of the pandemic. On the other hand, we needed to ensure food supply with the city. The number of workers to the harvest has been insufficient due to the measures taken against COVID-19. Especially temporary workers coming from abroad. To overcome this challenge, the municipality launched a solidarity campaign. The city used its digital platform, Izmir, to reach out to volunteers between the ages of 20 and 35. The municipality provided small rewards to incentivize the participation to the campaign. Hundreds of young people participate in the cherry harvest, which produces the 10% of the country's capacity. Izmir has also introduced a mobile market project. Citizens who were not able to leave their houses due to curfew had the opportunity to obtain fresh vegetables and fruits through the mobile market coming to their door. This project has increased the economic activity with the agricultural sector by bringing producers and consumers together. People's Market is an important project of the municipality. It's a place where agricultural cooperatives promote their products to citizens without intermediaries. We have opened the 5th branch of People's Market in Izmir, and at the same time, there are sales over the internet, and we are planning more and more in the city. During the pandemic, we created an online platform within the scope of the People's Markets. In this platform and through We the Izmir digital application, citizens can donate food or hygiene packages to the ones facing difficulties. More than 300,000 packages were delivered to our citizens. These kinds of initiatives not only strengthen the connection between myself and the citizens, but also increase the sense of solidarity among every one of us. An implementation that was appreciated by the public was the Maskmatic, a vending machine for distributing masks. We have witnessed severe deficiencies in the supply of material, such as masks and protective equipment. With the Maskmatics, we have distributed 6,750,000 masks free of charge in a very short period of 2 months. We have also implemented other solidarity campaigns through digital platform We the Izmir. Firstly, in Pending Invoice initiative, the bills of the citizens who couldn't afford to pay them were paid by those who have the financial means. With the application, more than 13,000 water bills were paid by the citizens who would like to help their fellow citizens. Secondly, in the pending Izmir Kart initiative, volunteers cover the travel expenses of students who are facing financial difficulties. We expect that this practice will be widely used and be very beneficial when schools are opened. Third initiative is hanging books. Volunteers donate books to their fellow citizens and especially to students. This initiative is widely supported by important writers of Turkey. We have been collaborating with the International Finance Corporation to launch an open data program in Izmir. This program is extremely valuable when we are facing with economic challenges of the pandemic. It will support the city's economy, promote entrepreneurship, and contribute to create jobs. In this program, the data of the municipality will become open to the public. Businesses and entrepreneurs will use this data to create new applications and solutions for the needs of our city. Finally, I want to briefly talk about the first digital fair of Turkey, Shudex 2020, organized by Izmir Fair Company. The Izmir Fair Company is a municipal corporation aiming to increase economic activity within the city. Since all the fairs around the world has been cancelled, İSPAŞ decided to digitalize its fairs and provide an experience close to physical ones to overcome the economic challenges caused by the pandemic. İSFAŞ held the first digital fair of Turkey, Shoedex, in 2020 in the shoe and leather sectors. It was a big challenge to organize a digital fair that would create results similar to physical ones. A very positive feedback has been received after the fair end. İSFAŞ continues to work on new digital fairs and making investments to create the best possible results for participants and the city's economy. Thank you for your patience and attention.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay. Next, please allow me to introduce President Christophe Farahi of the Grenoble Alpes Metropole of France. Grenoble Smart City approaching focus on mobilizing intelligence and energy for the sustainable transformation of the territory by using collective efforts of leverage for transition. Please welcome President Christophe Farahi. Thank you.
Dear colleagues and friends from Taiwan and all around the world, as much as I would prefer to be with you, I'm very pleased to be virtually with you and to contribute to this special edition of the Smart City. Smart City Summit and Expo, and with this very particular moment, and I would like to thank the organizers for the invitation. So the Grenoble territory is aiming at being the Alpine city of tomorrow, both smart and sustainable. The smart city approach on our local scale dates back about 15 years. Because of populations and elected officials' sensitivity on the subject, it has always been deeply connected to the question of local and global transitions, in particular regarding air quality, decarbonation, and energy consumption. Our policies are aimed at nearly 450,000 residents, as well as more or less 250,000 residents of the neighboring territories, who often work or have activities in Grenoble. As such, all neighboring communities are associated with the definition of the project and its governance. Around 15 collaborating projects with which the community is directly associated are currently in progress, and around 30 are in preparation, not counting the project carried by the players themselves. Innovation is a collective process, and will not happen without the collaboration of all these actors. Grenoble metropolitan area has a long tradition of innovation, marked by major scientific projects, but also the birth of Planned Parenthood, or the creation of the first cultural center of science, techniques, and industries. One of our great projects, which is called GREAT, for Grenoble Alps Together, aims at reconciling technological and social innovation. It is the result of a very collaborating dynamic, bringing together nearly 100 stakeholders, whether institutions, economic and academic actors, or citizens and non-governmental organizations. It is based on the conviction that it is thanks to a massive diffusion of innovation that the transformation of the territory will be possible, through new forms of organization and more agile cooperation, mobilizing public and private actors alike. Through this collective work that the metropole is leading, we seek to make the territory more breathable, flexible, engaged, and livable. Sustainable development is the common thread of all metropolitan policies, and we want to base our attractiveness of our territory on quality of life. Air quality is a good example and is central in our approach. Air pollution is currently the cause of 100 deaths each year in our territory, and we do suffer from a bad reputation in this area. Improving air quality and dividing by 2 this mortality number is the objective of many of our policies, from very proactive policies benefiting bikers to a very efficient public heating network and a brand new heating plan using local wood only. From a broad plan for energy building renovations to financial support to help changing individual heating systems or vehicles. These actions, of course, benefit to our citizens' health, but they are also beneficial to the local economy and help fight energy precariousness. It is important not to lose the sense of action along the way, just as it is crucial to remember that technology alone provides only tools and not and never answers or solutions. To innovate is about all to question routines, habits for the actors as well for the users. It is also about making sure that no one is left behind. We have identified three main areas of applications to our approach. Mobility is 24% of carbon production and 29% of energy consumption. Any territorial transition, therefore, imperatively requires an ambitious approach in this area, all the more complex since acting on public transport is, of course, not enough, and it is also necessary to integrate the individual car, the fleets from companies, transport of goods and deliveries. Buildings and improving the balance between demand and energy productions are one of the cornerstones of any low-carbon strategy in a territory which was built during the Second Industrial Revolution and the discovery of electricity, hydroelectricity, which employs several tens of thousands of people in the energy sectors. The questions mobilize researchers and industrialists on topics such as smart grids, photovoltaic production, interseasonal storage, and green hydrogen. Air quality occupies a central place, as we said previously. Particularly in these fields of application, we are convinced of the need to engage in a transversal approach at three levels. First, data. Public and private data, personal or not, it is today at the heart of all the interventions. We must think about its protection, but also its dissemination for the good of the people and the territory. Second point, co-creativity. It is obvious the way of producing innovation will continue to change in order to better integrate all stakeholders beyond consumers. Funders, prescribers, and all third parties are now invited to join the process. And we must keep working to integrate other contributors such as artists, cultural field, and social workers. Thirdly, the question of support for change must itself be a subject of innovation. If no longer words to us afterwards how we are going to sell a project to the population. Designing it with term, it's the beginning of the solution. But we have to go further if we want to perpetuate, to scale up, to massify. This often requires being clear on how to fund change, on how to support actors, as well on how to evaluate and monitor. Here are some examples of emblematic and rather long-term local projects which started several years ago and which are still actually in work. Metro Energies. This is a typical example of the possible synergies at the scale of a territory. This project was born from the merging dynamics of an energy company, GEG, an equipment manufacturer, Schneider, and an information of data system specialist, Atos. It closely monitors a range of energy production and distribution systems and enables users to manage their consumption more responsibly. The second example is Enernet District. In the wake of Metro Energy, the challenge here is to work in a mesh of a district or a territory and no longer a simple building, both to improve the diagnostic and study phases, operation and maintenance of buildings, energy production and consumption balancing. Murmure. Murmure is this campaign in a benchmarking in France for the energy renovation of collective big buildings. One of our challenges is now to transform the results on the individual homes and the office building sector. InfoLab, working with the inhabitants to exploit the data produced by the community or its operators in order to meet their expectations on the crossroads of the public, private, and professional sectors. Highway. Hydrogen is one of the solutions of the future to optimize the energy mix, both for industry, for mobility, for storage of buildings. Several demonstrators are already operational, and beyond, the city supports the establishment of a real ecosystem by thinking of the entire production, distribution, and consumption chain too. The EMT learning grid, finding a solution is a start, but it is necessary to ensure its dissemination and the rise in professional skills. The EMT learning grid is both a tool for experimentation and a showcase for lifelong learning. I would be remiss not to mention our local response to the current pandemic. At this critical juncture in history, the entire planet is grappling with the effects of COVID-19, and Grenoble is no exception. COVID has become an ever more pressing challenge that has inspired our local actors to propose a wealth and innovating responses. The trailblazing spirit and conscientiousness that has led our local community to stand up in the face of the climate crisis are the same forces that have driven the swift response to COVID. In the short span of 3 months, dozens of projects have seen the light. Here is a selection of initiatives that demonstrate the diversity of projects that have sprung up around in our city. An application for trying on clothes without having to visit a changing room. A particularly efficient 3D printed mask made by a company that normally is specialized in the production of biathlon rifles. The development of a vericidal textile that can be integrated into public spaces like tram seats to ensure that viruses cannot survive for long periods on surfaces in public spaces. A contactless hand sanitizing machine that uses an environmentally friendly solution, multiple also internationally renowned diagnostic companies that have ramped up production of rapid PCR and antibody tests. And finally, a radiological platform that has been made accessible for the global medical community that allows professionals to compare lung X-rays and advance together towards more precise diagnostics. Also noteworthy are the initiatives that have brought together patterns from the research, industry, and academic spheres. Traditionally, this collective approach towards innovation has been the strength of our community, and COVID-19 is no exception. Among these projects, we have a collaboration to identify biomarkers that may predict the violent cytokine storm that has been associated with many of the most serious and deadly COVID-19 cases. Also, a public-private collaboration that used each partner's strengths to produce a reusable medical-grade mask. Also, a collaboration that has developed an open-source artificial respirator that can be reproduced anywhere and adheres to strict medical regulatory guidelines. Finally, it is with great pride that I highlight all the companies and research centers who have put their regular projects on hold in order to switch their efforts towards the fight against COVID-19. Proof that the mindset of the professionals and citizens of Grenoble Alpes are turned towards the betterment of our local and global community. This concludes my presentation, and I would like to thank you once more for this invitation to contribute to the Mayors Summit and sincerely hope to see you soon. Please receive my best regards, and I wish very strongly that every one of you is actually in good health. Thank you, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you. And next, we will invite Deputy Mayor Bartosz Bartosiewicz to share the experience of Gdynia, Poland. Smart city policy is a major element of the long-term Gdynia's development strategy 2030, which focus on development through the use of innovative solutions with the necessary inclusion of residents in decision-making process. Please enjoy the speech by Mr. Bartosz Bartosiewicz.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's great to be here. I'd like to thank you for organizing such kind of event. I'd like to thank especially Mr. Mayor of Taipei City. I think we all had to face very serious problems for the last couple of months, and this is great that we can exchange our knowledge right now. Can I ask for my presentation right now so it will be easier to explain a couple things? I'm a deputy mayor. Can I ask for the next one, please? I'm a deputy mayor of the city of Gdynia. The city of Gdynia is located on the north of Poland in Europe, as I'm also consultant for smart city solutions and I have a great team of people. I will present not only our local solutions, but I will present some solutions based on technical platforms, IT solutions from all around the world, which I think are worth mentioning during this meeting. Next, please. These are the numbers, and probably we all know these numbers that around 7 years ago, around 30% of population lived in the city. Right now it's a little bit more than 50%, and in the future it will be 75%. We also know that the population will grow. There will be much more of us. So for the last couple of years, we all been talking about it, that we have big challenges in terms of transportation, agriculture, housing. But it's not only about those. I think we can all add coronavirus to that list. Next, please. What we believe in as a city of Gdynia, from our perspective, the most important thing is the high standards of living. It's cooperation between the citizens as well as very high quality of life. So we're calling ourselves a citizen-focused smart city, and we believe that this is a key to be a great place to live in. Next, please. This is a list of 4 cities. I just choose them. There's a Seoul, Bergamo in Italy, a city capital of Sweden, as well as Frankfurt in Germany. And it doesn't matter which place we live in around the world, we all had to face the same problem, which was coronavirus. Next, please. But what is really important is that actually we live in different cities. We have different relations within the families. There's a different trust in government, law regulations, social responsibility. So I tried to choose all of these solutions that are worth mentioning, that can show how can technology help the cities to recover after the coronavirus. Next, please. There are 47 cases. That are going to be a short explanation of each cases divided into 5 sections. I just want to let you know that this is a general information. So if you are interested in it, you can get into the details. Some of them are on the national level, but some of them are on the cities level. And this is very subjective choice. So I just want you to know that they're divided into 5 different categories done by me. And I think it's just worth mentioning. The first is information, just general information. Second is the stay-at-home rule. Can I ask for the previous slide? The third is acting locally, mental health, and the last one, which is really important, is the fight with the coronavirus. Next one, please, and next one, please. The simplest way, I think, to explain all the citizens is to build a website. Around a year ago, not a lot of us knew what coronavirus is, how do we have to face with it. And also in many cities, we've implemented different solutions. So it was really important to do some local websites that can explain the citizens, how should you behave, what is coronavirus, what we have changed in terms of public transportation, or if you're an elderly person, what should you really take care of? The next, please. This is also the top left is the city, is a picture taken from my city, as well as the top right. There is an information, wash your hands. But this kind of information was not only in Gdynia, it's all around the world. Just please stay home if you don't have to live. This is the information to the citizens. Next, please. This is the application done in my city. A lot of people really asked, like, what is coronavirus going to be affected and what's the result? This application is based on big data. You can just type in your age, how old are you? You can type in your diseases, and based on big data, you can get a real percentage how many chances are for you to die because of the COVID-19. So you can type in, you can get into details, and it's not guessing. It's based on all cases around the world. It's updated online, so you can really find out how serious it is in your case. Next slide, please. I think this is worth mentioning. In Great Britain, UK, there was also made a first chat box, coronavirus chat box. Next, please. And we have a lot of solutions where we're trying to tell the people, please stay at home. If you can stay at home and you can do all things from your home. Of course, a lot of call centers organized by the city. One number, the first one is from my city. You can just dial this number. You don't have to go to the main building. You don't have to visit the people working the main building on the city hall. You can just dial the number and you can do everything by phone. If you don't want to do it by phone, there is a second example. You can do it online. You can also chat with the virtual employee of the city hall. But if there are any documents that you have to deliver to the city hall, because it's by law you have to do it, there are parcel lockers. So you can just bring it in, and this is a right bottom picture. You can just leave a document without touching anything, and also the employees of city hall are collecting those documents from this machine. Next, please. Also, you can sign up for the meeting in the city hall if you have to do it. If you have to meet with someone in person, there is a special platform that you can choose exactly the time, the place where you want to be. The second top is the same platform. This is about education. All kids stay at home also in Poland, so we prepared a special platform dedicated to education. And the third one is about playing fields. Of course, we have a lot of playing fields in Gdynia. They are free of charge, but we have a regulation. So there has to be a maximum of 8 people in the playing field. So we made a special platform to make a reservations free of charge, but you have to confirm how many people is going to be on the playing field. And there is no contact between different groups. So it's free of charge, and it's another good example how you can avoid other people. Next, please. This is, of course, something what is in every country, in every place, in every city. Different platforms. I'm really happy that we have right now Cisco, so we can WebEx meeting, so we can have this conversation. But what is worth mentioning is that it's so officially in news that even in Singapore, a man was sentenced to death by platform, by Zoom. So it is changing right now. We don't need to meet face to face just to discuss very important issues. Next, please. What is really important is also acting locally. These cities are different. We did a lot about taxes. We could change the taxes for this period of time. We also in Gdynia did a special program which is called Breakwater in Gdynia. We paid a lot of money to different local companies. For example, we bought some lessons for kids, but they have to do these lessons in 1 year time. So they got the money in advance, but this is the way we want to support them during this time. We also made a call center for paramedics, free of charge, hotel, taxi, catering, psychological help if they need some. Next, please. What is really important is also that we all stay at home, so mental health is important. Next, please. We try to keep our elderly people online, so not forget about them. There are some cultural events online. Next, please. I think in every city there is something. We did a big comeback of drive-in theaters, so people can stay at home, but they can enjoy some culture. Next, please. In Iceland, there was a virtual sport. You can walk around the globe. You can add your miles to the list of every people living in the city. So another virtual sport, so we can stay healthy. Next, please. But also there was a problem with domestic violence, and this is application which was done in Katowice in Poland. It's called your umbrella. If you log in, there is a weather information. But if you tap twice the screen, there is a contact with the police, and you can get a lot of information. It was designed especially for women. So if you're in trouble, if you have a problem, you can just have this normally looking application which is supporting people which are having violence problem at home. Next, please. Also in Finland, good example, I think it's worth mentioning, kids had a chance to talk with the minister, because kids were a little bit left behind. They didn't really understand what's happening around. So they had a chance to talk with the minister. Next, please. Summer city camps, special hours, the kids, they had to stay for a month at home. So it's really important to not forget about them, just to give them some extra lessons so they can recall very quickly. Next, please. And the fighting with coronavirus by using a lot of technology, algorithms with CCTV cameras, so you can spot if there are a lot of people, too much people in one place, so we can react. Next, please. Also printing 3D medical visas done in Poland. Next, please. But also the case from Italy, I think we've heard all about it. Some reducer for oxygen mask done in Italy. Next, please. We have also drive, go, and through some special places where you can check if you're ill or not by just driving them. Next, please. Some special, we call this ambulance. In Polish, it's called Mazobus, a specially designed ambulance, which is not only one, but which is in checking the people who are staying at home if they're ill or not. Next, please. And of course, using drones. Drones in Poland by police to spotting the places if there are any people who are meeting each other and there are too many people in one place. Next, please. Also drones in Rabat in Morocco being used to disinfection. And next, please, a case from China just for traveling, for transportation some goods. So you don't have to travel to other city. It can be done by drones. Next, please. Of course, vending machine, it was mentioned by the mayor of Izmir, but also different cities. Oh, I even have a case from Izmir. I didn't know that I'm going to have a chance to talk with the mayor to meet him, but this is a case from Izmir, but also from Singapore, from Poland, a lot of places around the globe that the vending machines are in use. Next, please. Of course, some application from Singapore, Australia, Germany, France, there was an application mentioned by the mayor of Taipei City. Next, please. What is important, that's a calculation done by the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport in South Korea. If we have this kind of application, if we want to find out where the person was during the last period of time, last week, normally we need around 24 hours. But if we have this application, it's around 10 minutes. So this is saving time solution. Next, please. Solution done in Berlin, also about weather, about traffic, pop-up bike lines. They reduced the traffic and they made a special design bike lines, so you don't have to use the transportation, you don't have to use a car, just do it by bike. Next, please. AI solution done in UK. This is really nice. So if using AI to find out how many people may require ventilators and how long patients are likely to be in the hospital in the UK. It's done totally on AI, on artificial intelligence. So really nice solution based on AI. Next, please. Of course, thermal cameras. I think we all know it from all around the globe. This done is in Tallinn, Estonia. Next, please. And contactless payment. I think we've learned that we don't need a cash in our wallet. We can do it by cards, by some special way of payment, so we don't need cash. Next, please. So these are 5 different categories. And the last one probably is the last. Yes, this is a thank you slide. Very quick explanation, 47 cases from all around the world, a few of them from the city of Gdynia, but I think all of them are worth mentioning. So we have to face the same problem in different ways, but by using the same technology. Thank you for the invitation once again. I'm really glad I had a chance to present you my opinion about those which are really important to think about so we can all fight with the coronavirus. Thank you.
Thank you. And next speaker is Mayor Bongani Baloyi of Middelburg, South Africa. Middelburg is one of the fastest growing cities in South Africa. The city government is adopting an innovative mindset to revolutionize the manner in which city service operate, as well as driving sustainability with a local ecosystem. Please join me in welcome Mayor Bagani Baloi.
Thank you so much. I must extend my appreciation to the host, the Mayor of Taipei and the Deputy Mayor of Taipei. We would have loved to be with you and experience your city and also share some important learning and learn from you as well. So we've sent my presentation. Could you please put it on the screen? Thank you. We're going to reflect on the financial impact of COVID-19 and using technology on the to mitigate the corona risk in public participation. And as many of us are aware how the coronavirus has changed our material circumstance and how we do business has to fundamentally respond to the new environment that we find ourselves in. And more so in our case, where public participation is central to how we do our business, to try and solicit the input and views of our residents that we serve. So we'll go through the slide. We've prepared a few slides, and I'll speak to a few of them, and some I'll just speak a bit in detail, but some just echo what my colleagues have been speaking about. Next slide, please. In the next slide, the government and public service organizations operate within the central mandate of protecting citizens and providing services to enhance their daily lives. And therefore, as such, our governments are central respondent and decision makers and service providers within disease outbreaks and health emergencies. And therefore, with the rapidly evolving COVID-19 pandemic, public sector must continue to play a central role which it's currently playing. So now we also have to consider the financial impact of COVID-19 pandemic on local government. What we've seen so far is that the next slide. Next slide. Thank you. What we've seen so far is that the rate of unemployment continues to increase as many have lost their jobs as a result of the current pandemic and the subsequent lockdown. Our country went into a 40-day hard lockdown, which had significant implications for business and various other industries, and thus has affected our ability as municipalities to collect revenue for our trading services. Between the month of February and May, close to 350,000 people joined the ranks of the unemployed, taking the number to a total of up to 77 million people, which is about 30% unemployment rate in our country, which will cause significant challenges and have various consequences. And according to our National Treasury, a total of 1.8 million jobs could be lost as a result of the current pandemic, while unemployment might surge to close to 50% in the worst case scenario. Next slide. In terms of our regional economy, it's expected that we will contract by 3% this year from the previous expected 3.3% growth in 2019. Our debt levels expected to increase beyond 60% and the threshold of 70% of GDP, which was 60.2% of GDP in 2019 in the past financial year. And high imports of medical supplies will exert downward pressure on the exchange rates and reserves. And reserves were at 5% cover in 2019 and will see a further decline to the reserves. And our regional macroeconomic convergence criteria will be missed due to rising deficits and rising inflation and debt in our country. Part of what's affecting us is, in the next slide, is dealing with the structural faults in the South African economy, which is quite important because the structural faults in the South African economy affects how local and regional governments respond, because you find yourself responding within the context of your national economy. One, there's poor educational outcomes that perpetuate inherent disadvantage. Two, there's low levels of labor-intensive growth. So as we grow, we don't grow in the labor-intensive industries, which could absorb our people, and we're not reskilling and utilizing in innovation and technology to break into new industries to create a better employment for our people and a better livelihood. And you find highly concentrated industrial structures, limited competition, and high barriers of entry. And you also find inefficient public monopolies imposing high costs of structure for network infrastructure and collapse in consumer and business confidence, leading to a contraction in private investment and consumption demand. And in the next slide, you'll start to see that there's various areas which is causing a big challenge for us, which is the labor and business communities, and you also find government. Within labor, you find short-term and retrenchment and no work availability as a consequence of work stoppages and the hard lockdown in our country. And business lost production time due to sick leave and quarantines, because there was no better way of preempting and planning for COVID-19. And therefore, our country preferred to go into a hard lockdown for a few weeks, which has significant and major consequences to employment for people and also them losing their jobs. And equally, the poor people in our community find it equally hard to recover from the outbreak due to the loss of their accumulated savings which they had. And government in unsustainable public finances increased due to reprioritized towards health while reducing spending on priority areas. So as a consequence of COVID-19, our central government had moved money from key expenditure areas and moved into healthcare to ensure that to secure the health budget to the extent that it's required in our country. And in the next slide, you find the revenue is collapsing at a time when social and economic needs are surging, and our central revenue collection anticipates that between a 15 and 20% revenue shortfall due to COVID-19 lockdown. This means that the revenue under recovery could move up to 280 billion rands. So what it also introduced to us is the high cost of testing due to COVID-19. Our country has tested close to 5.5 million people. Of those, we have cases, active or positive cases of close to 500,000, and the recovery is just about 480,000. That means that our recovery rate is quite good compared to everyone else, and our mortality rate is just sitting at below 1.3, 1.4%, depending on every week as the stats come in. And as a country, we're well within our peak at this point, and we expect our peak to rise and maintain at least until the end of September. So we are well within the current peak of our country. The next slide. So local government can expect several potential financial strains, including increased demand for services with rising citizen expectation around delivery of services. In as much as the money from the central fiscus is decreasing or redirected, our residents and citizens still expect us to continue and spend in high priority areas, as well as respond to the COVID challenges that it has presented us. And rapid spread of COVID-19 virus is challenging governments to act and spend in ways normally reserved for in times of Great War, depression, and natural disaster. Next slide. So municipalities like businesses have been hit hard by COVID-19 pandemic, with large metropolitan council having lost close to 30% of their monthly revenue, and roughly 14 billion rands will be lost as a result of residents not paying their rates and taxes as a consequence of the unemployment. And ratepayers are battling to pay taxes, and the number of indigent households continue to rise. So the number of households that rely on government cross-subsidization because they can't afford payment of their rates and taxes is increasing as a consequence of COVID-19, and thus affecting municipalities in their revenue collection. There will also be a reduction in revenue from water and electricity due to reduced consumption as a result of companies shutting down, as well as from reduction of rental of municipal facilities, which is affecting the municipality directly. The next slide, the provision of water. I mean, COVID-19 regulations have imposed an additional responsibility in municipalities, which place a significant financial burden without the necessary financial support from the federal government. This includes the increased provision of water supply, increased sanitation of public transport and facilities, and the providing of food and shelter for the homeless, which we've also done in partnership and in collaboration with our business partners in our areas. The next slide. And the local municipality may not be adequately adaptable as circumstances evolve. The municipality is at risk of lacking a proper and formidable response to a second wave of infections, which may be detected after the continued government activities, so which pose a serious risk. The next slide. And governments are moving fast and bypassing many typical procedures by ordering business closures, curtailing travel, relocating industrial capacity to meet urgent medical needs, and providing immediate financial resistance, all of which have a heavy financial impact. Secondly, governments have been dealing primarily with urgent medical and economic issues. As the week passes, the pressure to restore day-to-day government operations, as well as currently shutting or shattered services, or shared services rather, like your schools, your libraries, your licensing facilities, will grow despite the presence of the risk that citizens may contract COVID risk. Next slide. The local government faces the risk in COVID pandemic. There's a risk of failure to sustainably implement a new normal to appropriate to a new environment. But that's the thing the mayor of Taipei was speaking about in his opening address, about how COVID is forcing us to adapt in new ways, from not touching our nose and eyes to how we do business and the issue of business continuity. So I'm going to skip the next, or rather I'm going to speak to the next two slides without going through them in detail. What this has created is actually a big opportunity for us to relook at our services broadly, our business model, our business continuity, and actually reflect that much of all of these requires a rethink, a reset, to call it that, which is an opportunity for us to relook at this and say, how do we better improve by leveraging on innovation, which allows us to better interact with our residents in their safety of their homes, and we can get their inputs from the safety of their homes by recrafting our municipal app, which has various functionalities that meet the legal prescripts for local government to perform specific things as determined or prescribed in the relevant laws. So at least we're moving ahead in that direction. And as my colleague was also saying, we're having this meeting from the comfort of our countries, and now we are forced to use innovation and technology more. So which is something that we're looking across our entire business process to see how we can rely on leverage on innovation and technology to ensure that we continue with our business and allow for various platforms of engagements with our community in a digital platform so they can pay their rates and taxes in the comfort of their own home, see the consumption of their municipal services, their water bill, the electricity bill, and be able to track it on a live perspective. But equally, the COVID-19 has showed us that we need to strengthen and improve on our internet infrastructure in our communities, because a big part of the response has been people working from home, and that has exposed the shortcomings of the reliability of the infrastructure we have, and we need to invest more into the infrastructure and in fiber infrastructure, allowing for better connectivity and connection and accessibility to the internet by those at home so they can continue where they are. But it has also showed us we need to reflect on other areas of revenue over and above the water, electricity, and assessment rates, but to now start considering the area of IT infrastructure as a big area for us as a government to consider as a revenue of the future. And we must start deploying and investing in significant resources that will allow our people. So I think I've gone through just the latter part by speaking to it. And I just want to conclude by thanking the host mayor for the wonderful opportunity, and also appreciate the presentations made by my colleagues on the panel. And thank you again for this opportunity. I hope that you will remain safe, and hopefully next year, this time we could have seen each other and visit Taipei. Thank you so much.
Robachev, Head of International Affairs at the Moscow Agency of Innovation in Russia, to speak with us. Moscow is a global center of high-tech and creative industries. The core of its innovation is the adoption of smart city technology and big data analysis. Please welcome Mr. Alex Robachev. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to present the experiences of Moscow. And I'm very glad to be here today at Mayor's Summit. I would like to thank especially Taipei City Government and Taipei Computer Association for this chance to present the results of our work. Today, I would like to focus mostly not on the current affairs, the pandemic influence on Moscow life. I'm sure that the mayors and city representatives of other cities have drawn on that a lot. But I would like to share with you some insights about the impacts of this pandemic situation on urban life on Moscow, but I think it's equal for other cities as well. The first slide, please. Thanks. So, in Moscow, we conducted a research. It was quite a big research, and it was dedicated to the foresight what would be the outcomes and the effects on the most important part of urban life of this pandemic situation, and how innovation can actually play a role in that impact. So we tried to forecast what would be the changes in education, in healthcare, in labor market, in tourism, trade, and culture and creative industries. Next slide, please. So let's start with the healthcare. Speaking about Moscow, it's very important to bear in mind that in Moscow we have about 15-16 million inhabitants, and more than 9 million inhabitants use digital access to healthcare system in Moscow. Thanks for this system, more than 243 million people have made an appointment in recent several years, and doctors have performed more than 500,000 operations and records of visitors every day. Thanks to the introduction to modern IT solutions, from the moment an ambulance is called until the brigade leaves, only 2 minutes and 30 seconds is the span of time. So it's a very, very short, which means that Moscow healthcare system is heavily digitalized already. But what would be the nearest changes in this system thanks for the pandemic? First, and very important one, which we could see, is that everything goes online. So online health counseling will be so-called new normal. More and more people will start to communicate with doctors, and not only general doctors, but specialists in different fields via digital means of communication. We could see already right now that there is an increase in specialized telemedicine services. Up to 50% of consultations will be general practitioners will take place online. So it means that we have to rebuild or reshape somehow the traditional healthcare system so that it would fit or suit this new demand. Then we could see that the new era of artificial intelligence technologies is coming, and it's already plays a great role here in Moscow. For now, we are piloting several projects which help doctors to identify the new diseases. For example, in a recent several months, we launched a couple of projects which help to read the photos of lungs and to identify whether patients have or doesn't have a COVID. So, and the emergence of specialized supernatural body for monitoring the development of pandemic threats. We see that this new pandemic threat actually helps to create the horizontal communication between doctors, and doctor society, medical society from different cities and from different countries share their knowledge and their technologies to improve the means of reaction against COVID. So, next slide, please. All these will require very advanced technology-based solutions. I have mentioned already several of them. The first one is big data analysis and artificial intelligence will play the key role of the forthcoming new type of medicine. Then platforms and services for obtaining psychological support. We will a very great importance. We will have a stress on that platforms, because without that platforms, people who could not actually move around the city, the elderly people, the young people, the people with disabilities would not have a chance to access the healthcare system, and it's a really great challenge which our city is facing right now. Regenerative medicine solutions, biotechnology, molecular solutions, and the development of new drugs. We see that the new vaccine is now under test, and the vaccine which prevents or which will help us to prevent the new disease, the COVID. So the span of time which is needed to elaborate this new vaccine and to put it in use is very short now. So it means that, generally speaking, this time which requires to elaborate a new drug and to put it to the market will become shorter and shorter. And platforms for interaction between doctors and patients is of great use. Next slide, please. Thanks. The next very important point is tourism. I guess that tourism is one of the most difficult sphere to tackle right now, because, well, speaking about foreign tourists, we experience the huge decrease in numbers of those tourists, and every country worldwide could feel that right now. There are several very important issues: security, stability, travel as a way of life, and technology. Well, the first and the most important one is security. For now, I see that people are afraid to travel. That's the first point. And cities and their governments are afraid to let people in because it could actually bring new disease back. So we could see that there is a challenge here. But still, there is a huge demand for traveling, for new experiences, because, as I said previously, tourism became a way of life for many of us, and citizens couldn't think about their lives without traveling. So it means that we will need to introduce new standards of hygiene and cleanliness, and to reshape somehow not only the habits of people, but to reshape the quality of services that are rendered in our cities. We probably, in the nearest future, we will need passport of immunity as a mandatory document for travel. Well, you know that in some places right now, to enter the city or the country, you have to show that the official medical document record that you do not have COVID. The next very important thing is stability. Stability means that the fast-moving tourist tracks will be replaced by so-called slow tourism, where people get into the place, get to know locals, are not in a hurry. So it's very important because it helps to sustain nature, it helps to sustain the communities. Total personalization. With this slow tourism, it will bring us the necessity to make tourist product more personalized, which means that depending on your interest, depending on your type of activities, preferable type of activities, you will be offered the new product. And as a city, we need to elaborate those products. And technology is very important because all these levels, new types of tourism requires technological advancement, new platforms, new gadgets, new types of communication in between tourists, local people and tourists, government and tourists. So I think that in the nearest future, it would be a really huge opportunity to reshape and to redefine what tourism is, what it was before. We know before the COVID, and obviously it wouldn't remain the same. Next slide, please. Yeah, the next very important point is education. I would say that the ratio in between online and offline in education is crucial now. In Moscow, 4 months ago, when COVID started, we moved all our schools and universities online. And it was a real challenge because, it's really hard to make that move because we tested our infrastructure and we checked if it's able to sustain such huge load. So 1,469 schools buildings were connected to educational system, and it proved to be working. But now we have to elaborate new types of methodology how to teach online. It's much harder than to teach offline because you have to keep the attention and focus of students. And it's especially important to do for the younger students, for pupils, like in primary school. So individual educational routes, that's our nearest future. Using the data analysis, we will identify what type of material and what type of organizational form would be more suitable for every individual in a classroom. And we will create the individual educational route, which means that this person will teach and will learn the stuff according to their abilities, to their background, to their readiness to understand new material and new information. Competences. We see that this COVID brings a huge upheaval in the labor market. And for now, it's really hard to predict what kind of competences would be required in the nearest future. So for the educational system, it means that we need to train and to educate so-called universal soldiers, the person who could easily do any type of job. It could be the person should be resilient, adaptive, ready for economy of unpredictability. It also requires a lot of new technologies, new technology-based solutions, new platforms, and for us it's a huge challenge. So we would like to share the knowledge and the experiences how we face this challenge and how other cities are trying to overcome it as well. The next, please. Yeah. So school, university, and additional professional educations. These are 3 pillars on which a modern educational system is based, and all these 3 pillars are under question right now. The next, please. It's very important to keep in mind that culture is very hard to deal with as well, because for now, many cultural institutions experience a tremendous attack of COVID. First of all, because most of the culture institutions are offline and they couldn't easily go offline. Well, at least in educational system, this online type of activity was somehow supported by our previous efforts. But culture is very vulnerable. So, and it's not only in Moscow. We tried to analyze different experiences and different cases. We see that everywhere is the same. So it means that we will need to help culture to transform and to sustain in a new environment. What does it mean? First of all, accelerating digitalization of the industry, especially in traditionally analogous sectors such as theaters, museums, and cultural centers. Hybrid models and omnichannels. Omnichannels means different types of communication in between the cultural activity, cultural institution, and customer. The ratio online and offline is different in cultural sector, and it will become more and more different. So we will need to help to build online experience for the customers. And convergence and collaboration between creative industry sectors. As far as we could see, for now, fashion, art, cinema somehow penetrate each other. And in the nearest future, it would create absolutely new spheres of cultural experience. So on a city level, we should enhance it and help these new types of cultural experience to form itself. And of course, new practices of content production and consumption. Part of those new practices I have mentioned already. It's very important to underline the so-called DIY content, meaning do-it-yourself content. We see that the border in between professional culture, artists and painters and so on, and amateurs became less strict. A lot of people started cultural career late, and the COVID attack actually forced people to do something in a cultural sphere instead of staying without a job. So we will help and we will try to sustain this activity as well. Please, the next one. Yeah, and on the final slide, I would draw your attention to the professions in demand. The COVID situation, it doesn't only impact the current labor market, but for now we could see the shape, how it shapes the future labor market. And new types of professions are forming right now. For example, in selected sectors, performing arts, movies, fashion, and museums, we could see that new types of professionals are required. Content and media design specialists, digital marketers, community managers, and so on and so forth. And of course, all these requires new advanced technologies like VR and AR solutions for creating immersive content, artificial intelligence as well, platforms for holding online events, digital and cultural heritage sites. So it requires a lot and a lot to be done on the part of city government. So I would say that all these types of activities that we are foreseeing right now are our nearest future. And we would be really glad to collaborate on creating those activities, those projects with other cities, and to share the experience and knowledge, what is working, what is not working, and what are the best practices to deal with this new situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Finally, We will welcome a distinguished guest from Budapest, Hungary, Deputy Mayor Gabor Kaporfonius. As the second fastest developing urban economy in Europe, Budapest is committed to its Smart City Budapest initiative, which comprises mostly grassroots projects and organizations from Budapest. Please welcome Mr. Gabor Kaporfonius.
Thank you. Thank you for your invitation. It is very good for me to participate on this panel. It is very useful to hear all your different experiences and approaches to the situation of COVID-19. I will talk to you about our experiences. Next slide, please, and the next. So here in Hungary, what we have is we didn't have a very serious outbreak of COVID-19. We had a very early shutdown based on the experiences of the neighboring countries. What we faced first was that the municipalities had to take care of a lot of elderly people who were restricted from leaving their homes. The municipalities did not have resources to do that. So one of the major challenges was to manage the surge of volunteers. Large numbers of volunteers approached. So it was one of our tasks to organize the work of volunteers and to link them to places where help was needed. People needed a lot of information about how the city was going to be functioning during COVID-19, also information about the nature of COVID-19. So what we did was for digitally literate people, we created daily video presentations on these topics. And for the digitally, we also created a website with answers to frequently asked questions. And for digitally less literate people, we organized or extended rather the work of our call center service to keep people informed. And also we had to switch the working of the municipality offices to home office, and we had to minimize personal contacts with our offices and with the offices of the utility companies. So there was a transformation to online administration in both respects. Next slide, please. There is quite a big confrontation between the capital, Budapest, and the government of Hungary. And there was also a lack of cooperation between the national and the local government in this pandemic situation, which resulted in a very, very deep lack of information about the nature of the crisis and about the number of the crisis. So there was quite a lot of opposition between these two organs, which made it quite difficult to tackle the crisis, be that personal, be that health, or be that economic in Budapest. Next slide, please. So what we did was we tried to create grassroots solutions that were important to the people. So we organized a hackathon to come up with ideas, IT ideas, or even organizational ideas that could help us to create solutions, smart solutions, which could help people. One of the winners was a social distancing app, which created an opportunity to for people to have information about those green areas, parks, or whatever, where they could go out in the open air without being threatened of joining a crowd, which would have increased the opportunity for infection. We also tried to develop, but we didn't finish that, a symptom tracker based on an idea that was developed in London, for example, but we didn't manage to implement that. So we are trying to get that ready for the expected second wave. Next slide, please. A very peculiar situation in Hungary is that the country is awfully centralized from a healthcare point of view and from a school point of view. So the municipalities do not have control over their schools. So we did not control how the schools transformed to an online education basis. That was completely regulated by the state. However, we tried to create digital resources which could be used by schools in their digital education process. So we aggregated content about that could be used for digital education, and also provided resources about international best practices for digital education. That was a sort of unofficial way in which we could help schools that are, again, not under our control to create a better quality digital education and to create that very fast. And also, what was very important, we organized online access to cultural contents. So we made available quite a lot of archived theater shows, etc., so that even while theaters were not performing in front of audiences, they could create online shows, or they could transmit archived shows for the public to have access to some cultural events other than books and movies that could be borrowed for online streaming services. Next slide, please. Public transport experienced a very radical drop. So there was a phase in March, April, where the use of public transport was reduced to about 10% of its usual numbers. And also car traffic was reduced. So we, of course, also introduced pop-up bike lanes. And this is something that we would like to maintain even in the recovery phase. So I think we made a step forward to reduce air pollution, which is quite heavy, especially in the inner areas of Budapest. And we are not only rethinking our modality mix in transportation, but also we are trying to rethink the use of our public spaces. I think we do not have all that many parks or green areas in the capital. This is something that we would like to increase, and especially we would like to reduce traffic in the inner parts of Budapest. And this is an opportunity where traffic was reduced, that we are trying to limit the comeback of the use of these areas. So next 2 slides, please. So our conflict with the government also resulted in a very heavy cut in our budget. So when we are speaking about restarting Budapest, we are speaking about economic recovery. We are not speaking about grandiose investment schemes or whatever. We are trying to think about local solutions and try to transform the city from a very controlling approach to create to a city which provides a platform for different providers, PPP partnerships, or else to actually support initiatives coming from outside the municipality, which could actually help in revitalizing revitalizing the capital. So we are trying to create a much more adaptive and resilient city from a city that was very, or is still a very rigid and very bureaucratic city. So I think this is one of the major things that we have learned, and we are trying to introduce smaller changes in different aspects. Next slide, please. So we are trying to introduce changes on these different areas of everyday life. I talked about transport. We are trying to create cooperations with other capitals in the nearby areas like Vienna or indeed Bratislava, Poznan, to have some joint approach in revitalizing tourism. And we are aiming to transform our social services to become much more personalized and to gather much more information about people who need our social services, so we can concentrate on their needs much more than is currently the situation. So next slide, please. What we are trying to develop for the second phase of the COVID-19 virus, which is approaching, we have implemented a green area map, which is combined with a social distancing app, so people can actually decide which green areas to go to where they are not meeting crowds. We are keeping our pop-up bike lanes and aiming to reduce traffic. And we have introduced a Restart Budapest card, which will enable users or citizens to get vouchers, so which can be used in local stores, in local shops, in local enterprises, to start to revitalize the economy, which received a very severe blow. Next slide, please. So what we are trying to do is trying to find our way forward, which is to develop a smart city, which is a city of service, a city as a service, and to organize a platform where we can invite investors, non-profit enterprises to work together, and we would like to be facilitators rather than controllers of what is going on. One important thing is that we have realized, our city government is quite a new government, we have realized that the approach of data-driven decision-making does not have a very deeply rooted culture in the city government. So this is going to be one of the central tasks in Budapest, to develop a data strategy which will enable us to have access to the data which arises from the day-to-day working of the city, and to try to incorporate that in the processes of city leadership. And our approach is very much user-centric, which is also a very great shift from the previous leadership. So what we are going to use is trial and error methods in our development and in our approaches to cities transformation. So I thank you very much. This is about what we are planning here in Budapest, and we would also very much welcome to change ideas and to get more information on your experiences, your successes, and even your failures, so that we can also share these, what we had experiences in Budapest, so we can help each other to get through these hard times. And also, we would be very interested in having different cooperations with your different cities. So thank you very much for having me, for your invitation, and let's hope that we'll get through this together.
And thank you, Deputy Mayor, for joining us today. Finally, let us invite Shan-shan Huang, Deputy Mayor of Taipei City, to summarize today's roundtable discussion.
We appreciate the presence of all the distinguished guests, and I would like to say thank you to all the audience online. The next two more live stream session roundtable talk will held on August 18th and 19th. Please find the latest updates on our official website. And thank you all, and we look forward to see you again. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Mayor Ke and Deputy Mayor Huang, for your closing remarks. Our most grateful appreciation also goes to all the mayors and delegates for participating in today's virtual Mayor Summit. Before we conclude, may I remind you that the next two Mayor Summits will be live streamed at 7 a.m. on August 18th and 5 p.m. on August 19th, Taiwan time, on the Summit's YouTube channel. You will find the link to the channel in the video description down below. The live streams will be archived on the same channel, so you can watch them again afterwards. Once again, thank you for participating in the Smart City Mayor Summit today. Please stay tuned and join us again in the next Mayor's Summit.